Hi, folks. My name is Girish Bali, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. Today we have a guest, exciting guest for me actually, because it looks like I'm a kid in a candy store meeting this guy, from TV actually. So he's from Shark Tank, and he's one of the guys that who came up with a edible spoon. Could you imagine edible spoon? I mean, you honestly, you take a spoon and you throw it away. But this guy actually says, why throw it away? Why not save it? Why not use nature as a good way to do it? So I have Dinesh here talking from edible spoons, and we'll get into the where did he come with that name, and how is the process, and what's going on with the new entrepreneurship after Shark Tank. So how about that? So Dinesh, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Hey, hi, Girish. Thanks for bringing me in here. It's really wonderful. And thanks for the super kind introduction. Yeah, I'm just a small entrepreneur. I'm not a really big guy yet. So again, my biggest passion and goal is to make the biggest impact, not myself. But yeah, thanks for having me here, and I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you, thank you. So before we start to the whole details of your entrepreneurship journey, what does back to basic mean to you?
Back to basics means like no matter how big you grow or how slow or fast you're growing,
Hmm,
you have to have your whys first clarified.
hmm,
Once you have those whys, that's a basic question, right? Why are you doing this?
hmm,
The how, what, when will come later.
hmm,
So I believe back to basics, like literally say it gives every single thought or an entrepreneurship or a job or anything that you do in your life always starts with a why, right?
yeah.
So that is the most important from my perspective, what a basic need is.
Yeah, yeah. Dinesh, thank you again for answering that question. It's great to have you again on the show. So let me ask you this: did the invention came first, or the title of your company came first? Which one came first for you?
I would say invention, and it's not just me. So I want to clarify that it's not just me who made the spoon.
Yeah,
So I have my partner Kruvil Patel in India.
yeah.
So he and us together we made the spoon edible spoon possible. So edible spoons did I mean edible spoons in the sense cutlery, mostly spoons did
Hmm,
exist about 3 to 4 years ago. There were a couple of few companies and like one back in India, one here in the US. They tried to get into the market, but one big challenge that they faced was the manufacturability. I mean, like literally anyone, if they spend some enough time, they can actually make an edible spoon at home.
hmm,
But the problem is manufacturing them at scale.
hmm,
That was the challenge that most of the companies earlier faced. And as engineers by background, Kruvil as an industrial engineer and myself an electrical engineer, and with our own investments, literally I had to sell my home in California to build up the facility
hmm,
in back in India.
hmm,
So with the engineering background and the money that we got through selling our home, we were
hmm,
able to build up the machines. It took some time. It was not easy. It was like
hmm,
I think it took close to 80 plus trials,
hmm,
and because the hardest was part was the strength versus biteability.
hmm,
You can't make it too hard just to make it to use as a spoon.
hmm,
Neither you can make it too soft so it's easy to bite.
hmm,
So that was the hardest challenge for us.
hmm.
And yes, so the product did come first, rather than I would say the machines came first, then the product, then the marketing.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you again for that. When I was talking to other people before this podcast, right, and I said that you're going to be on the show, you know what the first thing that they actually said is that this kind of item was already there years ago. I think it's is that true or is that false? What are your thoughts on that?
It is true. So Bakeys was one of the first companies which became super famous with this product,
Hmm,
but they are not selling anymore, as I mentioned, because of the manufacturing challenges.
hmm,
And we tried to reach them out first to help them out
hmm,
instead of starting our own company.
hmm.
But our rapport was not. I don't want to go into the details, but it was not successful when we
No, no,
actually
no.
like
We don't have to
went
go to
about.
the details
Yes,
at
yes.
all. Yeah,
So
yeah.
basically, we looked into what didn't work there,
Hmm,
and we thought, okay, we need to make it better. See, as I mentioned, the biggest challenge was the industrial design or the manufacturability of it.
hmm,
That's the piece
hmm,
that was missing before. And
hmm,
once we added that piece, And we were a little different from the approach. We didn't come with the product saying we have something like this
Hmm.
before we even made the machine. So literally we spent a lot of time, money in making the machine first, and then once we are confident that it's scalable and manufacturable, we went into the market.
Hmm.
So we had the product, the first samples of the product back in 2017, but we only came into the market in February of 2019 because it took us almost 1.5 years to make the machine and the industry them and the facility there.
Hmm.
So a lot of companies previously, they brought the product before even they figured out how to manufacture them.
But the
So
no, go ahead,
yeah,
go ahead, please,
so,
please.
so we saw that we actually noticed those companies were not able to manufacture. So we actually went ahead and did the manufacturing first, and then brought the product back into the market.
Hmm. Dinesh, let me ask you this here because um one of the sharks, I don't know who said it, but they did say that plastic spoons are cheaper than this one, which is a fact because it's going to be it's a fact, it's cheaper to make, right? So how hard is it to take away from that and bring this to the equation? Because investors, when I'm saying investors, I'm talking ShopRite or Whole Foods and Costco's and whoever, right? They're going to say that this product is going to be expensive. So what are your thoughts on that part?
You're absolutely right. In fact, the Shark Tank goes on for almost 1.5 hours. I think my pitch went on for close to 1 hour 40 minutes. They only show 20 minutes out of it.
Right.
So there are lot more discussions that went through which got edited out.
Sure.
So yeah, it was a biggest challenge. So initially when I got the products out, it was at 35 to 40 cents per spoon. It was actually quite expensive
Hmm.
because I mean the scale was so small and the food material. By the way, as you mentioned, right, the plastic is a byproduct of petroleum or
That's right.
the crude oil.
Right.
So it's a byproduct. So it's super, super, super cheap. Literally at a food service, if you're literally selling like a million spoons to a stadium, it's only like less than a cent or cent per spoon.
Hmm.
So cheap.
Hmm.
But the problem is, I want to go back to this basic question, right? As an educated person like you or me or anyone who's listening to this, why aren't we thinking twice before using this plastic spoon? Let it be for ice cream, let it be for takeout, doesn't matter what it is for.
Hmm.
Why aren't we thinking twice before using that spoon or fork or straw
Hmm.
for just 10 minutes of a comfort when
Hmm.
we know that it's going to stay in the environment for thousands of years?
Hmm. Hmm. But
It's
you
a
know,
it, it's basically what I'm trying to say is that thought process started my company. And when I pitched this product as a purely sustainable zero footprint or zero plastic alternative, I I came across the cost issue, as you mentioned, and as even the shark mentioned, or even any investors mentioned.
hmm.
So the way we went around it is converting the thought process of people, and it's an education. That's the hardest thing, right? It's not, I'm not just selling the product.
No.
I'm trying to change the behavior of the shop or behavior of the consumer when they're using it. So we converted it to a topping. Like, for example, you go to an ice cream shop, you put fudge or chocolate or nuts on it. You pay 50 cents extra for those, right? They're not free. So once we convinced the ice cream shops, we started with a very small, like local ice cream shops in San Francisco and other places in Hawaii, and even some in New York also there was this acai bowl shop. So once we told them, hey, you're taking the spoon from me at 30 cents and you have a capability of making it 50 cents when you're giving it to the customer.
Hmm.
So that upsell strategy is attractive because they're going to make money out of it as well as be truly sustainable. So it's a win-win situation.
Hmm.
So my experience in the last 3 years of selling this product to the companies, I realized no matter how sustainably focused that the company is,
Hmm.
in the end, the super hard truth is money. Are
That's
they
right.
going to make extra money? Let it be through PR, let it be through the goodness of having edible spoons in the store, or let it be through the upsell strategy.
Hmm.
So that's when we kind of started integrating that financial model into the sustainability model, and only then we wanted to go pitch. So that started working. Like recently, we finalized a partnership with Dippin' Dots. I
Hmm.
thank a lot for them. They're one of the biggest chains of the ice cream chains
Hmm.
who came on board as soon as we started talking with them. Like it took us like 3 to 4 months
Hmm.
to get the process started and all.
Hmm.
But that's what I need to know, right? Like a Dippin' Dots, you're going to like say Six Flags or
Hmm.
any zoos or aquariums where Dippin' Dots are there, and in any amusement park or anything.
Yeah.
You go there, you pay $5 for the cup of Dippin' Dots. And if they're going to increase the price by $5, 30 cents in that amusement park, you wouldn't really think too much about 30 cents. And in fact, you're always hungry there. So it's an additional snack too. It's not just an ice cream.
Of course. But Dinesh, let me ask you this, right? There's a person that I interviewed on my season one. His name is Ved Krishna from India. Um, we talked about environmental, okay, and he has a company called Paka Limited, okay, and what he has done is he is trying to build a, let's say, a fast food a box or plastic, like when we go to McDonald's and we get a plastic cover for the bun, right? He has made that as paper and cardboard, right? Which is kind of safer and cheaper, right? But his point is going to take at least more than at least 100 years to eliminate plastic, right?
Um,
In order to get that. So what are your thoughts on that part? And I
um,
want everyone to listen to that episode on season 1 from Ved Krishna. So if everyone wants to listen, you can listen to it too, Dinesh. So what are your
sure.
thoughts on that? Go ahead.
I would absolutely agree with him because, unfortunately, because of the consumerism trends that has happened in the last few decades, we have been using plastic at a ridiculous amount. And unfortunately, COVID has increased it a lot. The facts are right now, US alone disposes 100 million plastic cutlery
Hmm.
per day, per
Hmm.
day, per day. It's not an easy task to go against the
No, it's
tide.
not.
It's not. But again, we should not give up, right? So the whole point is the okay, I keep telling this to a lot of people I speak with. What I noticed was people want companies and governments to implement changes. Companies want people to change their needs or actions, and investors just want the returns of money.
Hmm.
Where in this vicious cycle, the planet has been left behind,
Hmm.
and it's very hard to go change that. It's so easy to go pitch an investor or a company that I'm going to give you something that you can make extra money out of, but it's going to be super hard. Hey, do spend a little and make it better for the world,
Hmm.
because in the end, no matter, I'm not going. I don't want to be like a negative person, or like, someone who says that it's not going to happen. But these are the challenges that, as younger generations who are listening to this or even looking into this, these are the challenges that they can take up.
Hmm.
See, I was an angel investor even before I started this company.
Hmm.
Even I was thinking typical Silicon Valley mindset. Oh, let me invest in this small startup where I can make which can be the next Uber, next Airbnb. I'll make this much money, that much money. But one fine day, a lightning moment said, if I make millions or billions, and in the future, if my kids are not going to even be able to live properly because there's so much of microplastics in the air they breathe, in the water they drink, and the food they eat, what's the point of me making so much money for them?
That's right.
The basic, coming back to that question of why, right? So it's a basic need. So right now, you and I are very happy. We are also consuming about one credit card sized worth of microplastics per week as of now, because nature is very smart. It's not going to just say, hey, okay, just dump whatever you want in me. It's recycling it, or it's churning it out and putting it back to us in our food chain. So our air we breathe, the rain that we get, everything has microplastics. There was a scary study recently that even babies' poop has microplastics in it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and how worse it's going to be. So my whole point is, as a regular engineer in the US, making some money, saving some money, investing in the right places, and also angel investments, I had a hard stop, and I thought, what is the point of all this if my children are not going to live better in the future? So again, what I'm trying to say is this education is needed, and I believe it's happening because especially most of the people who are less than 25 years old whom I speak with,
Hmm.
they don't have any issues with this, spending their extra few bucks to not put another plastic spoon in the planet. But again, unfortunately, we don't have buyers who are that young in this industry.
Of course.
So it's that the challenge is to make them understand that there is a need, and one way that we can actually make them look into us is by letting them know that because of the upsell strategy, they can make extra bucks, and that will indirectly help the planet, and it's a win-win situation for all of us.
So Dinesh, I mean, from a consumer point of view, I don't see it, but from you, from the outside the box, are you saying that Gen Ys and Gen Zs they're fine with spending a little extra, and I think baby
Yes.
boomers and Gen X's we still hesitant to spend extra? Is
Yes.
that what it is?
Yes, because we're rationalized. Again, I mean, I wouldn't blame our like older generations
No,
of
no, no.
not
Of course not.
understanding this. No, it's because they're not aware of it. The awareness
That's
is what
right.
matters, right? So the newer generations, they know about climate change, they know about plastic pollution, so they want to act on it, or they want things that will help them not do that, because it's their future. Like literally, right? My 7-year-old son, I don't know how hard it's going to be when he's going to turn 25, 30. with
That's right.
respect to the environment. I'm not talking about money or his
No.
his comforts. I'm talking about the environment aspect of it.
So
So
the,
yeah, I can I've seen a lot of kids, like literally I was super happy when few kids like college going students or even high schoolers, when they told me that they put the edible spoons, they're individually wrapped, they put it in their purse and they go to the ice cream store and not use a plastic spoon but use an edible spoon from us.
hmm,
So that's what I need, because the action what is what matters. It's not about me selling hundreds of millions of units. I want to make sure those hundreds of millions of units need to replace the hundreds of millions of plastic spoons.
of course, of course. Yeah. So Dinesh, let me ask you this here. Obviously, this is your new entrepreneurship, journey, right? So, do you call yourself an entrepreneurship educator or environmentalist?
Why
What?
can't I be all a bit of all three of them? So
Right.
yeah, so again, I don't consider myself as like anything, either this or that or this, but it's just that whenever there's a need of it, right? Like for example, when I started selling these, I had zero experience in the food industry.
Hmm.
So I signed up for like 9 trade shows in 1 year, and they're very small trade shows. They're not even the big ones, which are super expensive to go into. Some of these trade shows are like very regional and local. I just have to call them and ask them for a free booth or a free presence or free pitch there. And I learned the industry by meeting about close to 3,000 people in my first year, because I'm an engineer by background. I have zero experience on how the food industry works. So I learned it by myself. So that kind of gets into my entrepreneurship side of it. And my 2 years of research on plastic pollution will give me some heads up on the environmental aspect of it, environmentalist aspect of it.
Hmm.
And the third part, I think you mentioned educator. So yes, I had to educate people to sell this, so I had to be an
Of
educator
course.
too. So it's basically a typical entrepreneur who has to wear multiple hats. And as I mentioned, we are not here to make money, or we're not as a startup. I have just 2 employees here in the US. We have about 30 people in the India working in the factory, but none of us, I mean, in the US, none of us take any penny out of the business, and we have our own jobs to take care of our kids. So it's purely out of passion that we're driven.
But Dinesh, let me tell you this: any entrepreneur comes up with something new. We all know that, right? And we all have to go and pitch whatever that pitch is for whatever that product is, right? And then they'll say, okay, I'll go for it, or no, I won't, right? But with your pitch, it seems like it's gonna be a lot of education to that person. Don't you think people, they get too much of information, they get put off?
Again, that's the art of dealing with people or selling, right?
That's
It's an
right.
art of selling, I would say. So, I mean, I made a lot of mistakes too. Initially, I was too focused on sustainability, because that's what my passion is about, and environment. But then I realized the people whom I'm speaking with might not speak the same language as I do. They might not even have any idea what plastic pollution is.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, because they are not aware of it. So, and me preaching them, no one would like it. No buyer would like someone preaching you, right? So that's where, I mean, I read some books like Contagious, and there were few books on. One thing I was like very interested, since my like as my side reading, is on behavioral marketing, how you can actually approach someone and change the way they think in a way that they're not disrupted from their regular process,
Hmm.
but give them the points that they need to absorb.
Hmm.
So some books help me a lot, especially like I think the Dale Carnegie's How to Influence People, and I think that's a very pretty famous book.
Hmm.
There's a book on Contagious. There was this course from a Duke professor called Dan Ariely. I took that in Coursera. That was very helpful. So these are all the tactics that I had to learn to understand, how do I go speak to the buyer? How do I speak to the language first and slowly include my language and make them more comfortable to me? It comes with experience. Like I'm not going to say I did that in the first or
Of course.
first
Of
five or
course.
10 pitches. Another thing I learned is endurance. That works beautifully well. You just have to be patient. Like I'll tell you an example. Dippin' Dots itself. I approached them 2 years ago before COVID. It didn't go through.
Hmm.
I didn't give up.
Hmm.
I kept reaching out to them, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. So right, finally, just when COVID's getting better, like late last year, the right person agreed to it, and he started working with us.
Hmm.
If I had given up the first time I spoke with someone who said no directly, I wouldn't have come this. I wouldn't have made these steps.
Yeah.
So another example is out of the box thinking. A lot of times in the food industry, people spend a lot on PR, a lot of ads, and all that stuff. So I can't disclose the names, but I was able to approach a super famous pop singer who in the US. due to NDA, I can't disclose her name. I was able to approach her by just spending 20 minutes per day and trying to find a contact to her manager. It took me 20 days to get the right name of the manager, and it took me 10 days to find the right contact of the manager. But every day I spent 20 minutes. So the discipline and endurance will kind of give you that. It may or may not happen. I mean, I tried for other companies too, but for some companies it happens. For some people it doesn't happen. But you don't give up, right? And once you find the right contact and once they respond to you, I was able to sell some spoons to Madison Square Garden for her concerts. But unfortunately, all the concerts got canceled. But that's okay. I have a contact now. I have the contact of the singer. I have the contact of a manager. I have the contact of Live Nation, who is the main company which arranges all the concerts. I have the contact of the concert hall. And because they ordered, I have a contact of the distributor who takes it in. So all these things came up just because I thought a little bit out of the box instead of going to a PR agency, giving so much money to them. And then they may or may not reach out to them and all that stuff. So just giving you some examples, right? Like, so that endurance, that the dedication, it will take time. And that's and by the way, I actually contribute my patience to my job, because if I had not had a job and if I'm doing only my startup, I would have been very desperate for money.
Of course. Because
and since I'm not desperate for money, I'm able to take it slow. And again, it's good and bad, because a lot of times if you're a startup, you have to grow 10x, 100x, 3, like you want to grow fast, right? I'm not doing that. And another reason is my product is very new, in the sense even though edible spoons came and like they were there in the market long back, but not many people have tasted it, not people have used it. So, and there's nothing to compare against. Like, if I give someone an edible spoon who hasn't even heard of it, what do they expect out of it, right? Do they expect the taste to be good? Do they expect it to be very strong? Or do they expect it to be very light? What is the expectations? I have no idea. Like, literally, if I'm making another form of cupcake, I know what cupcakes is and how they need to taste. So I need to make a better cupcake out of it. But I'm not doing that. I'm making a product which never existed in the mass scale at the market.
Sure.
So by going slow, what happened was I got this nice feedback initially. So from February 2019 till now, we sold spoons 1.0 versions. Whenever I got a negative review, I literally enjoyed it, because I wanted people to give the honest review. I did not emphasize the regular customer that this is for sustainability only. I wanted to give them how it tastes. I wanted to give them a feedback on how it feels when they bite. So all that negative feedback, we were able to absorb, and we made the second version of our spoons and newer versions of Sporks and all that. Now the spoons are more biteable, more easy to bite, and it's a little more tasty than the previous ones. So all this, I was able to absorb all this feedback because I went slow. Like, let's say my product is super famous and I sold millions of it in the first year. I already sold 1 million, but actually if I would sold like 10 million of them, it would be very hard for me to change, because it's already growing so fast.
Sure.
So that slow growth actually helped me to iterate my product towards the better direction.
Yeah. So thank you again, Dinesh. Let me ask you this now. Now to the fun side, if you don't mind. So,
Yeah, sure.
so how many SKUs do you have, and how many flavors do you have when it comes to these spoons?
Yeah. First, I'll start with the shapes. Right now, we have spoons and sporks. And like about in another few months, we'll have the straws and chopsticks. So those are the shapes that we're going to come up with in the SKUs list. And on the flavors, on the sweet side, we have chocolate and vanilla. And we are this close to bringing in cinnamon flavored spoon as well. That's the 3 flavors that we're going to stick with for this year. And the next savory side, we have oregano chili, black pepper, and plain. Plain is very bland. I mean, it's just for people who doesn't want to even have a taste in the spoon. So it has slight salt in it. So I wouldn't recommend using that for ice creams. But yeah. So and again, yeah, those are the 3 flavors on the savory side. And adding a flavor is quite easy for us. It's not a big deal. It's just that through the feedback, we thought having too many flavors will be a big headache for our inventory, because the inventory management will be really hard to do. So that's why we're planning to stick only max or 2 to 3 flavors per shape, not more than that. I mean, per savory or sweet.
Of course. So let me ask you in a twisted way, if that's okay. So plastics are definitely cheaper from the cost point of view, okay?
Yes.
And these spoons are definitely a little expensive on the higher side, right? And now you're going to have multiple SKUs. Don't you think that you're going to have some loss?
No,
if it doesn't
actually,
sell? What are your thoughts on that?
We scaled a lot. So our spoons are now almost at 15 to 16 cents per spoon at food service. Obviously, retail is a lot higher. So again, I would say this is more demand driven. I'm not going to make 10 million of plain spoons and keep it in stock. Only if a food service guy orders me that much, I'll make them. So
Hmm.
initially the lead time will be high, but as we go, we get an idea which SKU we need to be, making more than the other SKUs. We
Hmm.
already have an idea, especially we know that you have to make more vanilla and chocolate compared to the other savory spoons. So, but again, I another thing is, if there are product which I'm not able to sell, I'll go to a nearest soup kitchen and give them away. So plastic spoons at the soup kitchen will not be used there. So
Hmm.
I don't mind doing that. As I mentioned, see, this is mission driven and passion driven. It doesn't show very good on the numbers, but that's fine because I'm looking for the impact first, and it will come later as we scale and as we make partnerships. And selling it direct to the consumer, again, it's very limited stock. As you see, most of our stock gets out of stock within like few months, and then I'll get the next batch and then only I'll sell it.
Hmm.
I don't do a lot of ads to push a lot of money and all that. I'm doing a little differently. I don't know if it's, I mean, some people say it's good to do that, some people say it's not, you have to grow fast, but that's it's okay. I'm experimenting, and I feel that I should experiment to learn myself rather than just follow with what others are doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you again for that, Dinesh, for explaining that. So, if I actually wanted to get some spoons, where would I go? I mean, do I go to your site or do I go to some grocery store and pick it up? Or
Unfortunately, we were at like almost close to 400 stores of TJ Maxx and Marshalls in the gourmet food section of their stores,
Hmm.
but I think all of them got sold out. So we're waiting for the next inventory to come in to
Hmm.
fill them up.
Hmm.
But right now, people can actually go to our website, incredibleeats.com.
Hmm.
Incredible EATS, incredibleeats.com, and we do have our small chocolate and small vanilla in stock, and we do have some of the other savory and larger spoons and spokes in stock as well. Because after Shark Tank, we had to fulfilling all the pre-orders that we got. So right now we are not at a super good position on the large spoons and sporks because of the logistics issues.
Hmm.
And this is another thing, right? Not a consumer doesn't understand these logistics issues. Especially COVID made it so bad. It's so hard to bring the product from India to here,
Hmm.
and it's taking so much time. And that's a challenge that we're facing. But that's one thing good is since we're going slow, we're not at a loss. It's okay. We're not selling because we don't have stock
Of
in the
course,
inventory.
of
Yeah,
course.
but again, as I mentioned, we do have dessert chocolate, chocolate, small chocolate spoon and small vanilla spoon in stock, and people who are interested can go ahead and order them over there.
And
And by the way,
hmm.
the price on the retail is a little higher.
Hmm.
To help us support with our scaling and other things, but in the food service, it's going to be much cheaper. Like if there are any companies like ice cream shops or even like regular restaurants who give cutlery at the takeouts, those products are much cheaper. They're like at close to almost 15 to 18 cents per spoon,
Hmm.
rather than our retail cost, which is higher.
Of course, of course. Yeah, Dinesh, one last question, if you don't mind. I know these are spoons, okay, but have you thought that you want to make a spork out of it or a fork out of it? What are your thoughts on that?
We already have the Spork right now.
Hmm.
It's there in the website as well, but I said it's a limited quantity right now.
Hmm.
So we have the manufacturing capability of making like close to 20,000 sporks and
Hmm.
40,000 spoons as of now per day. Per day, we can make that.
Hmm.
So again, the first lead times will be higher because of the logistics
Because the
issues. But
logistics, right?
yeah, but as we get more partners, then we'll actually bring in more stock and sell more.
Hmm.
And Q2 or Q3 of this year, we will introduce the edible straw and an edible chopstick.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Dinesh, I know that you have done a lot and then you landed on Shark Tank and now you landed on Back to Basics. So how was your journey so far after all what you have done, and how is your journey on Back to Basics, and do you have any last words for my listeners?
First, yeah, I always thank nature because I believe I'm trying to say like preserve it for the future generations. So it's going to give me the luck, all the luck I need.
Hmm.
So even without any connections in the food industry, I was able to do well and go to Shark Tank, which itself is a big thing. And after that, thanks again for inviting me to this podcast and spreading the word of plastics and how edible spoons can help counter the plastic usage. And I really thank you for your time and your listeners' time to listening to me. I hope I didn't bore you with too much sustainability. So, but that's needed. That's needed because we need to think about each and every action. And one thing I would like to request any listener is whether you buy or don't buy the edible spoon, please think twice before using another plastic spoon
No, no,
or a
Dinesh,
straw.
I think this is the mission that we should all, as a human being, and whoever's living on Earth, obviously, to help to get this word out. Because I think we're going to be here for a long time, aren't we? Well, maybe not you and me, but the world is going to be there, and we need to
Yes.
preserve it. because we're looking for the future kids and their kids and kids
Mhm.
to be a better place to live. And you're doing
Yep.
a marvelous job. And thank you again for coming on my show and making this brighter for me. I feel like just like what I said in the beginning, I feel like a kid in the candy store talking to you, because according to me, you're a star and you're a celebrity on my show. So thank you again for coming here.
Thank you so much.